Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast. On today's show, we will be reviewing 8 Men Out, and we'll be talking about Garrett Crochet to Boston, and I try to possibly build an anti-Crochet narrative. On today's show, the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Sox Podcast coming to you live from Chicago, the home of those darn Black Sox. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Ring Lardner himself. I've watched this movie 4 minutes ago.
I'm very upset. I'm very upset that you made me the kind of stern journalist instead of wacky Studs Terkel. That's who I want to be.
Okay, that's fair. He's got a bridge named after him. Studs Terkel is here. You can read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence. Herb, I think you're muted. Also, Herb, I don't know if you noticed this. I don't think I saw a single black person in that movie.
There was early in the movie who is picking up all.
The guy sweeping up the garbage. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's 1919, so you know.
No, right. Lawrence Benedetto, the Law Dog, is producing us today on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. We'll be reviewing 8 Men Out, and then we'll be talking more about Garrett Crochet because the sky is blue. All right. Where do we start with this movie? Do we just start in the beginning? Do we start with what we thought we knew? Did you guys see this movie before? How about we start there? Was this your first viewing of this film?
No, but it had been a very, very long time, so I basically didn't remember most of it. But I'll tell you this. Here's the one thing that I'll start with is I had to Google, did a plane literally drop a dummy onto the World Series? And apparently it didn't. Apparently
I couldn't find anything.
Happen.
Did you
but
find
I was this is the most insane thing to have ever happened. Planes basically had just been invented, so no wonder everybody was out of the dugouts looking at it. And then it just apparently drops a human being onto the ground in the middle of a World Series game. How that would obviously be the most famous thing to ever happen in a baseball game. No wonder it didn't actually occur.
Did you find an article saying that, disproving it? Because I also Googled it. I couldn't find anything.
I Googled and it basically said, no. It referenced 8 Men Out, and it was they took some liberties or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
Yeah, for a based on true events movie, it is probably the closest to what the true events happened. I mean, if you watched Remember the Titans, most of that stuff did not happen in that movie from real life at T.C. Williams. But this one is as close to you as you can get to the actual movie. So this is probably my 8th, 9th, 10th time I've watched this movie. It's an awesome movie for me.
I enjoyed the film at 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. So I thought it was a pretty good film. We'll get into it. It was my first viewing. Chicago Vince saying it's so bad for the Sox. The only thing to talk about is a movie about a team from 105 years ago. Up next, our review of Only the Lonely, because in it, John Candy has a picnic in Old Comiskey. Yeah, we'll probably watch it. It's Friday flicks. Do you not get the memo, huh, Chicago Vince? It's the off season. We're having an off day. It's a chill, fun day. Mercy, okay? And it's interesting because I actually didn't know much about the Black Sox scandal outside of hearsay. But so it was nice to kind of get a focused 2 hours about it.
Kind of something related to what he just said. Is in the spirit of Die Hard being a Christmas movie, is My Best Friend's Wedding a baseball movie? It's filmed at
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's filmed at Comiskey 2, which is now Guaranteed Rate Field. And because one of the main characters, Dermot Mulroney's fiance, who was Cameron Diaz, her dad owns the White Sox. So they go to the White Sox games. It wasn't Jerry Reinsdorf, though. So in this, that movie, they spend some time at a baseball place, since Die Hard technically takes place in Christmas. People say that's a Christmas movie. Would that be qualified as a baseball movie?
I will go through the Ethernet and I will choke you out. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. It takes place on Christmas movie. The whole reason why the people are in the office is because it's a Christmas party. Hey, is it weird that it's on Christmas Eve and they're not with their family? Yes, but that's the whole reason why Bonnie Bedelia punches the reporter in the face. I do think that My Best Friend's Wedding could be a baseball movie, though. I mean, like, that's a pretty clear shot of Chicago Tribune ad in the left field. Sorry, Herb. I didn't mean to get too riled up here. Vinny, any thoughts on My Best Friend's Wedding?
No, I have not seen it. I thought that a more, I thought there was a better way to ask that question, Herb. Ferris Bueller. Talk about Ferris Bueller, right? They go to the Cub game and Ferris Bueller. That's a movie that people know and have seen and has a famous scene at a baseball stadium. So that's maybe where I would have gone with that. But
I'll keep it at White Sox.
Yeah, sure, exactly. We're not bleeding into our other podcast, are we?
Hey, I might suggest Rookie of the Year. We got to figure out our upcoming Friday flicks that's going to take place the Friday after Thanksgiving. I would say Ferris Bueller is, though, a baseball movie because you get the great line of, what's the score? Nothing. Who's winning? The Bears. But also it's kind of the pastime vibe. Like he's just passing through. Hey, I caught a couple innings of a baseball game. It's not that serious. There's going to be 161 more of it. I think that's a perfect baseball vibe. This was a little bit too much baseball.
It was a lot of baseball.
Because I'm looking at Cicotte throwing these knuckleballs, and I'm like, that's a curveball. They just wanted anything with break. Like, that's not a knuckleball. He didn't learn how to throw a knuckleball. I didn't have to Google that.
In 1919, it might have been.
Well, no, because they show him throwing with a knuckleball grip. But we need pitching ninja on this to just see if he's like throwing a curveball because I feel like he's hammering this.
I can tell you what. Almost every pitch that they showed in the movie was an absolute hanger. Those things were being launched by the fake Cincinnati Reds. I understand they were doing it on purpose.
Great acting,
boy. That was like I could throw that pitch, and they're throwing batting practice.
But I believed it because all these guys went on to be plumbers. Like that's the whole bit. Wilt Chamberlain was going up against plumbers in the 1950s. Imagine how bad it was in 1920s. Go watch a 1920s basketball game. There's no shot clock. They held the ball for 6 minutes. It's ridiculous. It's like Army football. Anyways, there's a line there from Eddie Cicotte who says pitchers never have the upper hand. Imagine now Eddie Cicotte's mind of a pitcher throwing 100, just like every guy out of the bullpen throws 97 with a disgusting slider. His mind would explode. If he had Tommy John, also Eddie Cicotte's probably pitching into his 40s. A lot to say, obviously, about this movie. Let's maybe narrow in the focus here, because as you say, I just watched the movie. I just got out of the theater. I'm pumped. Utman, I don't even know if I'm probably putting a little bit too much pronunciation on that, but John Sayles, is it Sayles?
Sayles. John Sayles.
Okay. Is an underrated writer and filmmaker, adapted the book so well. And he's also acting in the film as well. He was phenomenal. I really liked him. Not only acting, but I thought the movie was well directed. I thought it was good writing. It did go on a little bit too long, but also that just might be my 2024 brain being a little bit ADHD and just being like, this could have ended in 20 minutes. Just say, they lost 5 out of 3 and they didn't go to prison. But
Sean's mad it wasn't a TikTok.
Pretty much. What do you guys make of at least the baseball in the film? Because as you say, Vinny, you think you could be throwing these pitches. Is that just 1920s baseball being depicted really well? Because they're making like $6,000.
Well, I think they wanted to hammer home the fact that they were playing poorly on purpose, right? I mean, whenever you saw, an error committed or a ball missed or something like that, it was like the most over the top, like, oh, I didn't get the ground ball kind of thing. And then like the reverse was true when they wanted to show John Cusack and Shoeless Joe doing well. They were like, or the third pitcher, right? They were like, they made it seem like that third pitcher threw an immaculate 9 innings and no one ever did anything. They made it seem like John Cusack was a cross between Brooks Robinson and Nolan Arenado over there at third base. So like they were really hammering that home for dramatic effect, which I understand. I would have liked a little, again, I think like personally, I would have liked a little bit more like game situation, like what's actually happening in the games. Sometimes they didn't even show the game at all. There were one games where they were just like, and they lost, but again, I think the idea was, look what they're doing. They're playing poorly. They're getting their ass kicked kind of thing. And then In the games they won, it was, oh my goodness, they're not playing poorly, they're doing well, kind. So again, for dramatic effect and for the layman, for the vast number of moviegoers who aren't baseball fans, I understand why they did that. But yes, when talking about the baseball, it was a bunch of actors playing baseball, which is probably about the equivalent to the what was happening in the 1910s, right? In terms of the quality of the game compared to what we know about it today.
I thought the quality of baseball by some of those actors, like John Cusack, who plays Buck Weaver at third base. You got left field with Shoeless Joe Jackson, played and depicted by D.B. Sweeney, who also was in The Cutting Edge, so another athletic movie. Like, those guys can play baseball. You could tell they had baseball in their background. Same thing with Charlie Sheen, who played center field, Hap Felch. But, you know, Swede Risberg and the two cheaters, the Swede Risberg and Kit Gandalf actors, they definitely never played baseball. They seem that way. They seem stiff. And so, yeah, the baseball was sometimes good. It was actually like they trained for it. As a side, D.B. Sweeney came on with Lawrence Holmes back in the day, and he talked about how he learned how to swing and, you know, the mannerisms of Joe Jackson, which Ray Liotta, who plays Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams, did not do at all.
Why is that?
Because firstly, Ray Liotta just talks in his his regular ass New York voice and bats right-handed. Shoeless Joe Jackson was not a right-hander. He was a left-handed hitter. So they thought in Field of Dreams to just reverse the field and, you know, make him look like he's a left-hander, but it didn't look good. So that movie is inaccurate, historically inaccurate. So at least D.B. Sweeney.
The movie about ghosts coming to life is historically inaccurate, Herb?
I mean, they could have just got that right. You know, could have just pretended like he barely batted. But
we are talking to the guy who
did a good job.
Star Wars. We are talking to the guy who's never seen Star Wars.
Yes.
Famous documentary Star Wars.
Hey, it's too unrealistic for Herb. But no, I hear you on that. There is a let's have a catch moment with Buck Weaver and little Bucky on the street saying, "Hey, teach me some tricks, Buck." And he's like, "Just go home, you annoying ass kid." But he ends up just like throwing grounders to him. It's like, I think he was like, you know, "Hey, show me a curveball or something." But Buck Weaver's just like, "Hey, just play, you know, Pepper."
On the subject of accuracy, I liked how the opening shot of the movie is of the Goodman Theater, which still exists, obviously, in downtown, and like the kids' little like vacant lot stickball court is like a block away. And like, even in 1919, that had to be some pretty prime real estate, I'm guessing. I don't think there would have been just kids milling about playing like baseball in a garbage lot like 2 blocks from the Goodman Theater.
Man, those kids are dirty though. Like, they really just got those kids accurately dirty. Yeah, and I mean, we know where Comiskey was. It's not that close to Goodman. It's a little bit of a walk there. All right, let's maybe talk about some of the characters after the break. We're close-ish. So I just do want to say, like, I don't know, like, Charles Comiskey is gross, and the fact that there is a statue of him in the outfield is very weird to me. The fact that it's just so nasty, and you just see most of this played out. It feels like a lot of Major League Baseball owners should be forced to watch 8 Men Out and just be like, "Hey, this is what you could drive people to do." But now it's also weird too, because thank God for the union. You know, you play 1 game and you're making $800,000 right, as a salary. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's a decent minimum salary, but even then, you got to like play 10 years to even get insured by Major League Baseball. Like, we should probably fix that. Like, you should be able to play 4 years. And then you also see the Rowdy Tellez situation where they're cutting him like 4 plate appearances shy of a bonus. It's like, that's gross and disgusting. And at least we did have the Chris Flexen moment where he was able to go give us 6 2/3 and, you know, get that an extra 100K or 150K. So I don't know. It's still weird to see all of this kind of play out the way it does. And RSNs are going to make that even grosser. So
a White Sox owner hated for being cheap, or rightly or wrongly being cheap? That's weird. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yeah, Comiskey's a little bit grosser. All right, we will take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast, and we will get into Eddie Cicotte. We will be getting into Shoeless Joe Jackson. We'll be getting into Eddie Collins as well, the college boy. I don't know if he should be in the Hall of Fame or not. And also, I want to talk about Frazier's dad, because, hey, that guy was great in this movie. Kid Gleason, man, I trust that guy. All right, let's take it to a break. We want to let you know about our friends over at Empire. With Empire today, you get shop at home convenience. You get the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. That's why competitors advertise a low-quality product that Empire won't carry, because Empire won't promise the lowest prices, because anyone who does, putting flooring in your home, they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect style for your home. And you can check out those styles with our virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will transform your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Again, schedule a free in-home estimate today with the experts over at Empire. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Chevy. Ray Chevrolet has you covered if you are looking for a new car. With Black Friday sales events going on all month long at Ray Chevy, you can score doorbusting deals on your next vehicle without the doorbusting stress. Because who wants to wake up at 3 a.m. to go stand outside Ray Chevrolet? Go in there right now. Have a cup of coffee. Talk to Ray. The prices you see online are the prices you're going to see in store with the Ray Price Promise. Who doesn't love a promise, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about the Black Sox. There was a promise broken, right? They didn't get the money. Ray's not a seedy gambler in 1919. This is a 2024 man giving you a great deal on a car. All right. Head into their shop today. I don't think they wanted a 8-minute specific ad. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with special Black Friday prices. Right now, take up to $3,250 up to $13,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or shop 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this November at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. Shop the Black Friday sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Imagine in 1990 driving from Chicago to Fox Lake.
You would have had to take a horse.
Gee willikers.
Or the Iron Horse, like the 1919 White Sox did between Chicago and Cincinnati.
I think Lou Gehrig would probably get you there faster. Just jump on my back. All right, let's get into the players who famously are held out of the Hall of Fame because of a scandal. Shoeless Joe Jackson being one, Eddie Cicotte being another. I think it's very clear watching this movie. They paint one as innocent and dumb, and the other one as a struggling guy who gets screwed over by Comiskey, who knows his career is ending, and he wants to send his kids to college. So while he is guilty, he has a true motive that you can get behind. What do we make of Eddie Cicotte and Shoeless Joe Jackson posthumously being added to the Hall of Fame?
Well, firstly, I think the ban was for life. So that ban is over because both those guys have died a long time ago. Shoeless Joe Jackson, as depicted in the movie, was just ignorant. He wasn't a smart man coming from the South Carolina countryside and just knew how to play baseball. You're not judged upon your intelligence, or I thought also, him knowing of the confidence game that was going on. Now, some would say that he only hit well when the games didn't matter, the games weren't in question, and did not hit well in the games that he knew that they were going to get thrown. And so you can have your opinion there. And weirdly enough, the only home run hit by the White Sox in that series was in, I believe, Game 8 by Shoeless Joe Jackson, when they were already down by a bunch because Lefty Williams just absolutely sucked the whole damn series. So I think he should be included. Now, Eddie Cicotte, I sympathize with the person, the man, and greatly played by David Strathairn in this movie. But no, he does not belong. He actively participated in a confidence game and threw at least 2 games in the World Series and collected some money for it. So I think that his inclusion into the Hall of Fame, or exclusion from the Hall of Fame, is rightly justified. But Shoeless Joe, he should be in, and Buck Weaver should be reinstated into Major League Baseball immediately too.
I mean, listen, I think the whole point of the movie is that it's a nuanced thing, right? And that you can look back and see guys who did a wrong thing, but perhaps for right reasons. Again, this was the movie. I have not read past what the movie tells me, which we've already discovered that, you know, maybe planes weren't dropping dummies from the sky, that might not be the exact story as if it were a documentary. And so, you know, probably worth reading the book and looking into it a little bit more. But I will say this, I think the way the movie depicts those guys we're talking about now, and I think I brought it up yesterday or the other day when we were talking about the Hall of Fame and brought up Pete Rose, you know, recently passing away. Again, not individual thing, but I'm just saying, like, there's a big difference between baseball and its relationship to gambling in 2024 than baseball and its relationship to gambling in many years past, really any year prior to the last 10 or 15 years, right? So that conversation is a lot different today than it would have been when they were making those calls. And so if you're the famously not very nice, to put it mildly, Commissioner Landis of baseball in 1919, you're going to be making a judgment with a different set of thoughts in your head and a different culture going on than we are going to in 2024.
I got to go off camera and mic real quick because they're going to start leaf blowing and lawn mowing outside my lawn. I got to close my windows. So goodbye. And I'm going to scream at about the commissioner in a second.
All right. Sean's doing that. So I would just say that if we're going to be talking about the actual movie, I think that cast, and I was just going through it, like they just have a great ensemble cast, and we're not even forgetting, and Sean was going to get into it, and he can get when he comes back, John Mahoney, the actor, you said Frazier's dad. If you know him, you love him. And he played the manager, Kid Gleason, in this movie. And he was just phenomenal, as he always is. A Chicago guy himself, John Mahoney. And so you could tell he knew the atmosphere. He had the swag about him. And I don't know what Kid Gleason was all about, but I felt he was very real in his portrayal of Kid Gleason, former Major League pitcher himself. And so, Sean, you were a big-time fan of the manager, the Frazier's dad, as you called him.
Man, I just kept seeing him and being like, man, that's Frazier's dad. Look at that.
Where was the dog?
Where was the dog? I kept thinking, and it was weird. I kept just wondering where the dog was going to be every second. And I thought that he would have a lazy boy, but guess what? They didn't even invent lazy boys by this time. I mean, this is pre-World War II. This is post-World War I. Crazy times. Yeah, I mean, Kid Gleason was great. I love that he was ready to just knock out Lefty Williams. I really enjoyed him. And then he goes and tells Comiskey, and then Comiskey tells the commissioner. But so am I wrong here? Like, who does he have beef with? Because isn't Kennesaw Mountain Landis? Also, you're not going to get a name ever like that again because of the Civil War. And it's misspelled. Kennesaw isn't even spelled like that. And that's the best part ever. His name is Kennesaw Mountain Landis. But he's known as being the first ever commissioner, gets a lifetime contract. Like, so who does he have beef with? Who is Comiskey going to?
A president.
He says
the president of the league.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought he said commissioner. So yeah, I mean, like Gleason, you feel for because he's obviously a player. I mean, this is just Will Venable. I mean, this is Grady Sizemore, right? I mean, any of these guys could be in this position. But so I mean, you obviously feel for what's his face, Kid Gleason here. But like, at least to go back to the Hall of Fame thing, because that's what I was about to bring up. Like Landis has to reinstate belief into baseball. So this is why Jackson gets kicked out. There was one point though, where they say, you know, no one's interested in Buck Weaver's batting average and the lack of errors. And I screamed out, I'm very interested in his batting average and lack of errors. It just seems like, again, in 1919, this was a huge deal. But in 2024, nobody cares about this. I think Jackson should easily be a Hall of Famer. The numbers he put up are insane. And every similarity score on Baseball Reference has him compared to a Hall of Famer. And he's portrayed as what? Illiterate, right? He signs with an X. Again, I don't know if that's real life or not. Vinny, as you said, we got to read the books. This is the pictures. But I felt for Shoeless Joe Jackson, and he 100% should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I mean, I think the portrayal of him is pretty accurate, that he was not very learned and the opposite of what Eddie Collins, who you want to kick out of the Hall of Fame for some damn reason, played by Bill Irwin, another great actor. I mean, just this film, that's another society. Like, it had like at least 10 great actors in it, and the fact that they all did it and did their jobs pretty well is one of the reasons why this movie is one of my favorites, because it tells the story and the acting is pretty excellence. And then I would say that, yeah, Joe Jackson, there's no doubt. Like, if you look at the laurels and the list of players that have had that many hits, had the highest OPSs in baseball history, he's there. Like, he should be in. And like I said, it was a lifetime ban. He is dead. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
I'll say this. One of the things that jumped out to me was there was one realistic thing and one unrealistic thing that jumped out at me. One realistic thing, yes, all of us reporters love to drink. And every time you saw a reporter on camera at all, they had a drink in their hand. So that was accurate. The inaccurate thing, though, was I loved how, especially like in the first couple of games when they didn't know if everybody was on board or not. And Yandu, the first baseman, Michael Rooker, was making like a huge, like, glaring face every time somebody did something that didn't go the way that they wanted to. And I'm like, imagine if this was today, every camera in the world would capture that and they'd be like, why is he just glaring at everyone all the time? It's like everyone watching would be onto it in 5 minutes, because, like, there was like, oh, he threw a strike and he just looked over and he's like, what are you doing? And it was like, come on, man, you're making everybody in the stadium knows. Oh, one more thing, speaking of the people in the stadium, obviously 1919, everybody was wearing a suit, a 3-piece suit, every single person in the building. But that the one gangster, the sports betting guy from Boston, right?
Oh,
who
awful.
had the Southern accent.
Ugh.
or whatever the Irish accent. That's right,
Mm-hmm.
the Irish guy. He's wearing a full white suit everywhere he goes, and I'm like, look around this stadium. No one else is wearing a white suit. If you were trying to identify the one guy who was, kingpinning this whole gambling situation, it would be the guy who's dressed like, the kingpin, with his silly little hat and his cane. Like, I mean, he stands out like a sore thumb amongst everyone in an entire 1,000-person ballpark.
Also, the Yankee hat of the time is a straw hat with a blue and red ribbon around it. Did they get that at whole stock? Like, every single actor at some point is wearing this like straw hat.
The barbershop quartet hat.
Yeah, literally. It's insane. They got it on sale. Yeah, I hated that Boston guy every time he came up. And it wasn't even like, oh, I hate him because he's such a good actor. Like, I didn't even look up the actor's name. He was
good at being slimy, though. He was supposed to be like slimy dirtbag kind of guy, and that's what
Rothstein was dirty. You could tell. Rothstein was portrayed perfectly, right? I just believed that guy. He struck fear into me. The Boston guy, I couldn't believe. And the Boston guy, again, you brought up. You thought it was what, a Southern accent. Then you go to Irish.
I just forgot it was Irish.
No, but yeah. I mean, he was going in and out. I mean, this was not well portrayed. I did not believe this guy was from Boston, and I didn't believe he was from the Emerald Isle either. I know that accent. That's crap. That's not where that MFer's from.
For a second there, I thought Rothstein was played by our guy Paul Sorvino.
Could you imagine?
He wasn't.
The two movies that we end up watching, Paul Sorvino's in both of them. All right. I didn't get to my Eddie Collins thoughts, and I guess we'll get to it after the break. So Ray Schalk is clean.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Boy, is he?
Yeah, man, he
wants to fight everybody who's not.
He is. He should almost punches Lefty Williams' teeth out.
I also like another
punch.
like what a disregard for like signs and stuff, right? Because when a pitcher doesn't throw the pitch that he calls, he just screams, "That should have been a curveball" for everyone to hear, and it's like, well, now the Reds just know what's coming.
There's guys on base. I mean, there should just be a scandal right there. Yeah, and then poor John Cusack. All right. I kept watching the movie and I'm like, every time I see this guy, I'm reminded of somebody. And I guess it was just John Cusack. He kept reminding me of John. Maybe it was Joan. Maybe it was Joan Cusack. He kept reminding me of. But he's an Evanston guy. And the whole crap after the 2021 ALDS, where it's like, is John Cusack a Cubs or Sox fan? Who cares? Clearly, he has a connection to the Sox because he plays Buck Weaver. And if he's from Evanston, it probably makes sense geologically that he'd be a Cubs fan. You can just
geographically. Whatever
that word is. I don't know anything. But yeah, I don't know. It just John Cusack gets a pass. All right. The guy wants to enjoy some baseball. Let Buck Weaver enjoy some baseball. Okay. Mercy. All right. We got to hit a break. And thankfully, I won't be talking for 2 seconds or 2 minutes. Vinny, talk about beer.
Weather's getting colder, folks. And that's no good because I'm a big summer guy. I love summer. And I'm like, winter coming already? No, that's terrible. But guess what? I can always have that summertime mindset because Summer Shandy from Leinenkugel's is now available year round. So if I want to go out and do my summertime activities, it doesn't matter if the weather is cold. I can grill in the snow as long as I got a Summer Shandy. It's summertime in my mind and in my taste buds as well, right? If I want to go down by a frozen Lake Michigan for a picnic, as long as I bring a Summer Shandy, it's going to be a very summery feel. But maybe some of you guys are not the summer aficionado that I am. Maybe you like the cold weather and you want some beer that goes with it. Leinenkugel's has a great variety of beers. Check out the Honey Weiss. Check out the Berry Weiss. Check out Lakeside Cherry. Check out Sunset Weed. You can even drive north of the border and have some Leinie's Original up in Wisconsin. All the beers they make are terrific bets, so go ahead and drink any one of them. Flavor every moment with Leinenkugel's. It is the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls. Yes.
Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays, Unshady Rays, have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in your team's favorite colors. I wear Shady Rays because I'm riding a bike. I want to have optical clarity on these Chicago streets, and also blocks all that debris from the streets out of my eyes, so it's perfect for when I am biking into work. Plus, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all eyewear. Every pair is backed by the lost and broken replacements warranty. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair and return them worry-free for 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Nah, don't use code CHGO. Like Connor Smith says, use code SHULK. All right.
Unshady Ray Shulk.
Before the Shady Raids ad even comes up at 4:28, it's timestamped. Hashtag Unshady Ray Shulk. He's not throwing shade. He's throwing punches, horrible punches at Lefty Williams. The one direction there, at least from our guy John Sayles, that does not look like a fight. Ray Shulk has a clean shot, at least for 5 seconds there, to knock out Lefty Williams. And he throws a horrible, push to the head and then, a weak body shot. And then he, clinches. You're this mad about him missing signs. You're going to knock that guy out. Ray Shulk doesn't seem like he's taking much. I also got confused because I was 100% sure that Chick was the catcher, at least in the first scene where he's catching Eddie Cicotte, because his face looks way more busted up than Ray Shulk's actor's face. So then I got confused that Chick's playing now first base. I don't know. Maybe I was just watching the wrong movie there for a second. Before we get to Eddie Collins, Connor did bring up earlier about Comiskey. Per DNA info in her thesis, O'Malley, and this is Mary O'Malley, mined hundreds of documents to reveal Comiskey's willingness to employ African Americans and opening baseball cathedral Comiskey Park to women. O'Malley also completed a master thesis in Northwestern School of Professional Studies on Charles Comiskey that portrayed him as more of a complex figure than previously imagined. Per WTTW, Comiskey financially supported the all-black 8th Regiment of the Illinois National Guard, as well as the first black-owned hospital in Chicago. O'Malley's research: after the city denied suffragists access to Grant Park for a parade, Comiskey offered up his ballpark as an alternative. So at least there's some black and white there, but I don't know. This is a guy that was obviously, this was, again, as Vinny pointed out, this is a great point by Vinny. This is a movie. So
you need a bad guy, right?
And man, I look at how much I don't like Jerry. It's easy for me to latch onto a bad guy owner for the White Sox. Come on, sign me up. A guy who names a ballpark after himself. I mean, are we going to get Reinsdorf Field at the 78? I don't think so. They're probably going to sell it to a sponsor. But anyways, that's disregarded. All right, Eddie Collins. This guy was in 5 World Series, 3 with the Phillies, 2 with the White Sox. The previous 2 years ago, 1917, the Sox win their second World Series in franchise history. Collins doesn't make an error. He hits above his career batting average. And in this series, below 700 OPS for Eddie Collins. He's not a known power hitter, but didn't look like Eddie Collins out there making 2 errors. Does he get the pass because he's the college boy? There's also the line that, he gets paid enough. So why would he ever be a part of gambling? I feel like this movie heavily implies that Eddie Collins is a dirty, 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 dirty rat who should not be in the Hall of Fame. Thoughts?
No, I thought that he was chided because of his education, because baseball at that time, and probably still this time, doesn't need, the college education. And he kind of shown himself to be it. I think his nickname was Cocky. So he was already known to be a guy that thought stuff didn't stink, and he acted as such. But I think, he was really bad. As somebody pointed out, one of the people who actually did the planning and the talking to the rest of the player, and Chick Gandil, hit higher than what Eddie Collins hit in that series, even though Eddie Collins was on the level and Chick was trying to throw the series away. And so, he was really bad that series, but you could tell he wasn't on the fix because, he was just bad. That was his last World Series he actually played, but he actually was on the teams with 2 other teams that won World Series. So the college boy, he had a high win share for his career. So I think, his inclusion in the Hall of Fame is more than warranted and should stay in there.
I know why Sean and I'm gonna throw Herb under the bus and group him with Sean here, even though Herb just defended Eddie Collins. I know why you guys don't like him, because he's the all-time leader in sack bunts.
Ugh.
In 1919 alone, he had 40 sack bunts in one season.
I take that back. Take him out.
Yeah, kick him out. That's a dirty guy. All right, hold on. So I do want to address
over
one thing.
500 sack bunts in his career, 40 in 1919 alone.
I'm for it. I don't know how
his
he
head would explode watching baseball nowadays. He would just if he was alive now, it's like, what is this? No bunts? Garbage.
And how does he have a 142 OPS plus? I think Connor threw out there that is a career, 47 career home runs, but amazingly a 142 career OPS plus. My light died on me. Great. This has been one hell of a show for me. All right. So one thing that was pointed out was Greg saying, I love that it was portrayed as though the Sox were in control of who won and lost each game, how each play went and how every at-bat ended. The Reds were 8 games better than the Sox that year, which is true. 96-44 for the National League winner Cincinnati Reds. The White Sox were 88-52. But guys, bounce some ideas off of me. From 1910 to 1920, the American League wins 8 of the World Series, one of them being the 1919 World Series, where the White Sox threw the game. And then,
1917.
No, 19. No, I'm saying the two that. So the National League won 2 World Series from 1910 to 1920. One of them being the Black Sox scandal in 1919, and then the other one being 1914, the Boston Braves beating the Athletics 4-0. So I'm aware the Sox win in 1917, but make that argument to me or talk to me there. It's just because the American League at the time, the complete powerhouse of the leagues right there, and it's a little disproportionate between the American League and National League, at least from my view.
Yeah, I think so too. So, and I think that the pitching staff with both Eddie Cicotte, who won 29 games that year, and Lefty Williams were supposed to dominate, and 2 of their 3 wins were by self-proclaim in the movie. And that's another thing I liked about the movie was they used 1919 slang with like Whippy, and Busher was the name they used for Dickey. And so he won 2 of those games. And so they, just needed Eddie to pitch regular in one of those regular other games, and Lefty not to lose 3 of them. So, I think they were the superior team. And I thought, I haven't read around that time because I wasn't there, but it was known to be they were the better team than the Cincinnati Reds, even though the Reds did have home field advantage.
I absolutely loved how in 1919 everybody not just had a silly nickname, but went by their silly nickname, to the point that when they were reading off their real names in the courtroom at the end, I'm like, I have no idea what characters they're talking about right now. Like, I know all of these guys by their goofy 1919 baseball nickname. That's what really should be their legal name in the courtroom, because I'm just very confused at this point. I mean, honestly, there was, I think I had no idea what Charlie Sheen's real name was, but I knew the little nickname they gave him. But it was literally the case with everyone. The one guy's name was Swede, and like that's not his real name. And so when they read it in there, I'm like, how am I supposed to know who that is?
Even the manager, Kid Gleason.
Yeah, right. Hey, at least Swede though. I think Swede's the dirtiest of them all. Maybe Chick, but I mean. Swede, you look at Swede's numbers. Swede batted 080. That's a guy that committed to the bit. He was horrible in the field, and he went out there and just sucked it up. I mean, in true White Sox fashion, I bet every single ball put in play was a grounder to the third baseman or shortstop. Like, bravo to him going out there. Swede just going up there and just truly throwing it away. Championship probability win added. No surprisingly, Chick Gandil, Swede, and then Eddie Cicotte and Lefty Williams are the four players that added the least to the team. Shoeless Joe Jackson added the most to the team, at least by championship win probability added. So it kind of shows you at least the four players there that were like very, very extremely guilty. All right, anything else on the game? Also, Herb, in your land of old slang, your old man don't know beans. We'll be using that in the podcast. And then Christopher Lloyd, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, that guy looks familiar. And it's like, how does he go from 1986 being Doc Hudson with all this white hair?
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown.
Doc Hudson is from Cars.
Great movie. Doc Brown. How does he go from all of this white hair to just being clean, slick? I mean, he looks like, Brad Pitt in a way. I mean, this guy looks like Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, what a transformation. Christopher Lloyd goes from the DeLorean to horse and buggy, and it's a great performance by Christopher Lloyd. Love when he refers to "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles," a song that's clearly dear and near to my heart. And he's singing on the train about how he comes from the shy. I hardly try, just go to bat and fade and die.
Yeah, that was Ring Lautner saying that. John Sayles.
That was Sayles? God,
yeah.
I thought that was Christopher Lloyd.
No, that was he was the journalist that was, he was on he knew they were on the take and he was disappointed with them because of that. And he was a journalist. Like, he was so hard on himself. And I wish we got back to that type of journalism where you're like Eddie Cicotte was kind of like beholden to him. He was like, hey, you're the smart one here. And like, he was kind of like scared of what you would have to say to Ring Lautner. If you went out of line, he would get your ass. And same thing with Huey that Stud Circle played.
Yeah, Vinny, is this why you don't go on the road anymore? You threatened Dylan Cease with a baseball, and we're like, hey, I know you're throwing games.
No, in fact, I was watching the whole thing and being like, wow, they sure talk to the reporters a lot. What do we do to get them to acknowledge that we're even in the room?
No phones. I mean, again, we're forgetting this. I mean, could they? I mean, you have to call Gramercy 8453 and then report 8453. Yeah, you got it right. I mean, the technology was now. I mean, Shoeless Joe Jackson is sitting there on a train, holding one hand up and a candle to his face, and then he's just like,
"That's not going to go well for him."
Well, Vinny, I guess again, the movie is portraying this man as dumber than hell, but he could hit a baseball.
Did you guys like the goofy like the sports bar of the 1910s? That thing that the mobster goes to where they're like getting Morse code reports on what happens and like moving by hand a little like baseball screen. It's like watching Gamecast, like the analog version of Gamecast.
And look at the numbers it draws. I mean, everyone's doing that on their phone.
There are a bunch of people sitting in that room just watching people move pieces around on a wall.
Vinny,
this is great. This is great entertainment.
when you can't find ESPN Plus college football games that you have, Texas State on an alternate spread. This is what I'm doing. I'm on Gamecast, baby. I'm going to Texas State football. I'm going to the Stats Live page, and I'm just watching that ticker come in. That's extremely still going on, especially with the legalizing of gambling. Like, that is just so still accurate in today. So I love that one. That was a great part to me. Bravo to throwing that out there. Also, this is the final thing that I got on here. Sheen at the end. Am I coming? Oh, I guess I went away a little bit. Sheen drinks a beer that is 85% head. Whoever poured that beer or whatever prop they used, that did not look like beer. And whoever bartended that, whoever poured that, should be fired.
I also commented out loud on that when I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much head on that beer. And then I thought to myself, maybe that's just what beer was in 1910s.
Also very fitting that they call Charles Comiskey commie, but he isn't sharing the wealth. That's a good bit. And then on Sales said to MLB Network, Bob Costas, who, if you're a CHGO diehard, you learned that Vinnie Duber went at Bob Costas' Halloween. I think he shared that on the podcast as well, but Vinny had a great time with our diehards last night at 8 p.m. listening to Led Zeppelin 4, side A and side B. It was a good time. We got to ask some questions while the hour-long Zeppelin played. Was it an hour long? I mean, you went for an hour. But
we went in overtime for a little bit. I think we had more questions. I wasn't going to turn people away.
Well, OT. But anyway, Sales says to Bob Costas, people said, oh, you'll never get this made. There's a curse on it. People have been trying to make it for years. Talking about his thoughts for the cast when he first wrote the script, Sales said, my original dream team had Martin Sheen at third base, and I ended up with Charlie in center field. So John Cusack and Martin Sheen, not really looking alike. So just not really going for a look of Buck Weaver, just good actors.
Well, the book, as I was surprised to learn, it was from the 60s. Mm-hmm. So this movie was made 30 years after the book was made. So that's impressive.
Very much so.
Films in the 60s?
Yeah, some.
Okay.
The last thing I got is the real life Nemo Leopold, like, didn't show up in the movie. Just like we talk about Moneyball, and you don't see Mark Mulder or Zito. It's like you don't see the right fielder play at all, but you see one of the 8 men out in Fred McMullen, who doesn't play at all. Like, you just had to. I mean, they tried to say, because he was part of the take, so he had to be part of the movie. But yeah, the right fielder's like, I'm sure his family's like, yeah, I'm glad that we're clean, but can you give us a bit roll, something?
Right. And we have to watch, Chris Pratt swing a baseball bat when they have literal Royce Clayton as the AL MVP of that year playing shortstop. It's like, let the actual major leaguer get some swings in there. Barry Zito, Mark Mulder, Dan Herron, who's the other guy?
Tim Hudson.
Thank you. I'm not remembering my guys as well. Yeah, I mean, just complete cast off. So good job there, Herb. All right. Any other thoughts on 8 Men Out? Lawrence, you got anything?
Nope, loved it. Tons of Hollywood that guys in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan. And
I was getting my that guys mixed up.
At the very end, they're a little choked up when John Cusack as Buck Weaver is like, no, those guys are all gone, and he's just puffing that little bit end of a cigarette there and watching Shoeless Joe.
Brown and Hoboken. Those numbers should be added to Baseball Reference. I got to see those for Shoeless Joe. That's a double, 2 doubles and a homer out there. A couple putouts. I mean, that could boost the Hall of Fame candidacy there. All right, so I would give this a 7 out of 10. A little bit too long, and it was also just way too funny because they played Portillo's music the whole time through the movie.
I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10. One of my favorite baseball movies of all time. Probably my favorite baseball movie. It's up there.
These are wildly specific ratings that I was not told that we were operating on such a scale. I just liked it. I thought it was good. So that's mine. Yeah, I liked it. It was good.
All right, cool. All right, in the last now 11 minutes of this show, we will talk White Sox. So I'm going to give an apology to TR here. We didn't talk about the White Sox enough, even though this is about the 1919 White Sox. TR wanted us at 4:20 to talk about the Chicago White Sox. So here we go. What has happened in the world of Garrett Crochet? Nothing. So there you go. We're talking White Sox.
That's not true. He won the American League Comeback Player of the Year award last night. That is handed out by the Players Union, remember. So these are all kind of, it's chopped up in terms of what awards are given out by what people, but the Players Union named Garrett Crochet the American League Comeback Player of the Year last night.
What did he come back from?
Being injured for 2 years.
Come on. I mean, but he didn't even come back as a reliever. I mean, now he's a starter. Like, this is not a comeback story.
White Sox pitchers have won the last two AL Comeback Players of the Year awards.
And you can say that a former White Sox won the NL Comeback Player of the Year in Chris Sale.
Yes, and how fitting there that Chris Sale wins Comeback Player of the Year, likely going to win NL Cy Young Award 8 years later after the White Sox trade Chris Sale, or 7 years later after the White Sox trade Chris Sale.
Isn't that weird? Like, both him and Jose Quintana are still pitching and pitching well years after they traded him away.
And look what it got the White Sox. They got the 2021 AL Central Division title. Let's go. I mean, with
more division titles than they won with the two guys.
That's true.
Very correct.
Hey, it's not a bad point. But hey, here we are. Garrett Crochet might be pulling a Chris Sale, a lefty, maybe not as dominant as Sale was at the time, but on the trading block. There was a article that Scott Merkin tried to retweet, which was great. He said, great insight from the MLB Red Sox reporter. And it was like, they hired a bullpen coach. He meant to retweet a link about the Red Sox trading for Garrett Crochet. And what the writer for MLB.com mentions is that it was likely to be a 4 to 5 player deal package for the White Sox. Abreu was mentioned as a name, but at least MLB.com's Red Sox writer does think that one of the top 4 prospects are bound to be traded in this Crochet deal. So I do have the package for you guys.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that. All right. We don't have HR yet, but anyways, the White Sox do not receive Garrett Crochet as I wrote this down, because that would make no sense. The Red Sox receive Garrett Crochet. I've been talking out an extension. 463, I think, is fine for 4 years. But then I also got some numbers from my guy Alex Rude that the last contract signed for 5 years for a guy with 3 to 6 years of service already was Luis Castillo at 5,108. You also see Glass now getting 5,125. I think if it's 4 or 5 years, I think you probably see a 5,100 number at least for Crochet. So Red Sox receive Garrett Crochet and likely seeing an extension for 472 to 5,105 plus. The White Sox would receive Christian Campbell, the third-rated prospect from the Red Sox, and the minor league player of the year for the Red Sox in 2024. Wilyer Abreu, Gold Glove winner for the Red Sox in right field for 2024. Franklin Arias, who is possibly the Fernando Tatis of this package. He received the second highest bonus in the Red Sox international pool for 2023, was known mainly as a glove first player, went to the DSL, right? And has just torn it up as a hitter. He's a guy that has a pretty good body profile. Sox prospects.com writes up that he has an above arm for the position, and that he has a projectable frame and has the frame to add strength as he matures. And Franklin Arias, the Venezuelan from Caracas, born November 19th, 2005. Shout out. He's going to be 19 in about 3 days. His time in rookie ball and actually at A ball this year, 309, 409 OBP, 487 slug. He wasn't projected to be this good of a hitter. And again, at A ball, 257 batting average, 331 on base percentage, 378 slugging. Not great, but also there's a 2.5 year difference. I think it was projected to be lower than that. So I think they surprised people with his performance, at least at A ball so far. And then I mainly just went for this topic to just give out the password's name, Vinny. We didn't get to say it. I think it was yesterday, but this man's nickname is the password. It is Yostinson Garcia. I have not been able to figure out the pronunciation. We found the pronunciation, and I'm still just not 100% sure on it because it is the craziest name I've ever seen. JHOSTYNXON Garcia. His nickname is The Password. Yostinson, I believe, is the best pronunciation that I can give you. 6 feet, 165. He's 21 years old, from San Fernando, Venezuela. So that's a prospect that I would want. Again, if you're looking at MLB The Show, it seems like a lot of people want the value to be like in the middle or just nearly leaning to the White Sox. They're trading Garrett Crochet. It has to be a full bar towards the White Sox. You have to give up a lot, I feel, for Chris Getz to truly put that deal out there. So there are my Red Sox to Garrett Crochet thoughts, because Chris Sale and Garrett Crochet won the Comeback Player of the Year awards.
I mean, I think Chris Getz would certainly be happy with something like that. I mean, if you're getting a prospect that's that highly thought of as the headliner and then throwing in more, especially young guys like you brought up there, I mean, I think that's really kind of in line with what he's been trying to accomplish, not just bringing in talent that, is as good as it can be right now and as good as it is thought of to be right now, but guys that can just be part of this organization for a very, very long time. You saw the teenagers he traded for at the deadline last year. Bringing in more guys on that kind of a schedule makes sense. But we'll see. I mean, I talked a couple days ago about how you got to remember back to the Dylan Cease trade and the highest level of the highest rated prospect in there was only 80 something on the top 100 list. Right now, folks have made pretty good cases for why they think Garrett Crochet would net more, and I would not be shocked if that were to happen. But I also think Dylan Cease was pretty dang good and remains pretty dang good, and is a similar type of asset at the very least. So I think, Chris Getz is probably hoping for a package like you just read off there, Sean, because it means that he's able to do a lot, quote unquote, better, if you go by the rankings, right, than he was able to do with Dylan Cease. And maybe given the state of some of these teams this offseason, the desperation that they might feel to either get back into things like Boston, right, or to push themselves over the edge like either of the New York teams, right? So I think that there might be a little bit of a different market this time around, but we're going to find out how different, and it's going to and Chris Getz certainly isn't going to budge. I think we're all in agreement there that after what he did in standing with Dylan Cease for so long, I don't think he's just going to be like, all right, it's December, whoever's got the best thing, go ahead and give it to me and we'll see how it goes. I think he knows what threshold teams need to reach, and I think he's going to stick to that.
Herb, real quick, let me read off the prospects and compare it to the Cease trade. Abreu was obviously a clear upgrade over Steven Wilson, the actual MLB player traded in the Cease trade. Abreu just won a Gold Glove. He's 24 years old, was the 8th prospect coming into 2024 for the Sox. So not a Steven Wilson, 29-year-old journeyman type. But the prospects are 3, the highest prospect, 3 within the Red Sox system. 3, Campbell is 3rd in the Red Sox system. Thorpe was 5th in the Padres system. The 7th prospect was Samuel Zavala, and he was the 7th prospect for the Padres. And then 8th was Jairo Iriarte. Campbell is 3rd. 7th is Arias. And then 15th is our guy, Yostinson Garcia. So I think the prospects is a little bit light because you're not going 3 top 10, but you are still getting 2 of the top 8, and then also Abreu, who's still highly thought of as a prospect. So what do you make of that on either side?
I think it's a fantastic trade for the White Sox. Like, yes, Christian Campbell's 3rd in the Red Sox farm, but he's 10th overall in Major League Baseball, according to Jonathan Mayo. And so you're getting a prospect that is highly thought of, and you just saw it. He's the Boston Red Sox minor league player of the year. And so you're getting the 3rd, 7th, and 15th prospects, and also a major leaguer that's got 5 years of service time left on his contract. So getting a Gold Glover and Abreu. So I think to get that type of deal, maybe not that deal, but that framework of that deal where you're getting all hitters coming back to you for Garrett Crochet, that's kind of the thing that the White Sox want. That's what Chris Getz says. They want the position player forward. You don't even have a pitcher in that deal. So I would actually be 100% down with that, especially with the top end talent there. And not a necessary lottery ticket in the Arias, but he's years away from baseball, from Major League Baseball. I think you said he's going to be 19 next week. So him and Yostinson will be longer term people, but the other 2 guys should be Major League ready this year.
Absolutely. So we will see what happens. We'll be following it. And if a trade is happening, we will be doing an emergency podcast. That is Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I am Sean Anderson. Cusack, thumbs up. Let's go. Lawrence, did you just make that?
I should have made that an hour ago. Yes, I just
Perfect. All right. That's awesome. We're building the biggest and best community of Chicago sports fans, and we want you to be a part of it. We had a great time, or Vinny had a great time in the Die Hard chat with our CHGO diehards, and you can come join the community over at allchgo.com. You get all exclusive access to our writing up at allchgo.com. You get exclusive discounts and access to the CHGO Discord lounge. For Vinny, Herb, I'm Sean. Thank you to Lawrence Benedetto. We'll talk to you on Monday at 4 p.m. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.